friends and enemies. In today's video, I want to discuss two videos. One made by Freely called No, I Don't Support the BLM Organization, and my reaction to Candace Owens.
The fact is, this Black Lives Matter movement, it seems to only care about black lives when there is a white perpetrator. That's just how it appears to me. Statistics show that the most violence isn't happening from white cops to black individuals, it's actually happening black on black.
Another video by Unnatural Vegan called Do Vegans Need to Talk About Black Lives Matter?
I mean, the reality is there's always atrocities. There's constant suffering in the world. That's why all of us do what we do. That's why those of us who are promoting a cause, that's why we do that. How do you pick and choose? Why do vegans have to talk about Black Lives Matter right now, but we don't have to talk about Muslims in China? We don't have to talk about Syria. We don't have to talk about Venezuela. We don't have to talk about Bolsonaro. Holy crap. I mean, I don't understand. Is it because it's the US and the US is just the world? I mean, I hope that's not it, right? I don't think anyone has a good answer for that. It's just that this is a big thing going on right now. It's totally, I mean, it's hard to even get news about the coronavirus, even though, hey, guys, there's still a pandemic if you forgot.
Now, rather than respond directly to these two videos, I'm going to be more so bringing them up to demonstrate what I perceive to be a problem within the vegan community. That there are those amongst us that don't think racism is a big problem, and those of us who don't think that we, as vegans, need to discuss other social issues in general. So my objective for this video is to convince any racism deniers that there is a racism problem, and to convince vegans who understand racism is a problem but don't think they ought to talk about it, that they really ought to talk about it. So to be clear, I'm not any kind of authority on this topic, nor do I consider myself to be super educated on it either. My forte, as you all know, is animal rights. Therefore, the arguments I'm personally going to be presenting will be broad. You'll see what I mean. For more nuance, I'm going to highly recommend watching some other videos here on YouTube made by other vegan content creators. To begin, I'm going to recommend that you go check out Cheap Lazy Vegan. She made a really well-researched video that totally debunks Freely's racism isn't a real problem video. I'll play a clip of it here for you.
So let me just read you a little statistic here. The US makes up about 5% of the world's population, yet about 21% of the world's prisoners. Okay? I know Freely is all about anti-establishment. I think that's what she's trying to get at. Well, this is the establishment. This is it. Private prisons. This is the establishment. These prisons are putting people in jail because it is profitable. And they are using the people in jail to do free labor. Okay, this is a thing. So I don't get how you can sit there and seriously discuss this issue about how these forces are trying to divide us. They're trying to control us, when the very thing that you're saying that you're against is doing exactly that at this moment. Let me read you a few more statistics here. In the 2015 National Survey on Drug Use and Health, it was found that blacks and whites use drugs at a similar rate, but the imprisonment rate of African Americans for drug charges is almost 6 times that of whites. African Americans represent 12.5% of illicit drug users, but 29% of those arrested for drug offenses and 33% of those incarcerated in state facilities for drug offenses.
So what I want to talk about is this. Statistical arguments that critics use to point out that racism isn't a problem usually prove the opposite, unless you're a biological racist, unless you think there's something inherent about being black that leads to more crime.
And unfortunately, black community commits a disproportionate amount of crimes compared to the white community. Let me tell you, 6% of the population, right, black men, 6% of the population account for 44% of all murders in this country, according to 2018 statistics.
Statistics about criminality should make it clear that there are deep structural problems within the United States. Why are communities of color disproportionately impacted by crime? Again, unless you think it's because there's something about this entire class of people that makes them inherently predisposed to commit crime, the literal definition of racism, then you have to acknowledge that there are structural factors at play rooted in historically imbalanced race relations. I don't think that's deniable. Once you start saying, yeah, but you start treading into biological racism. I know I said I was going to keep things broad on my end, but there's one detail I want to nitpick about Freely's video. It's about Candace Owens, a highly conservative political commentator who's beloved by the right because, well, she's black and she can say the things they wish they could say but can't. Anyway, she claims racism hasn't affected her in life, but she literally sued her school for racism. To quote this article, "Give Candace Owens a camera and she will tap dance, even if it means blatantly lying." While talking on Laura Ingram's hateful show, Owens claimed that she never had race issues growing up, but selectively forgot that she and her family sued her high school, which was when she was growing up, for racial discrimination. So yeah, Candace Owens will literally say anything to support her position, even if it's a straight up lie. Again, for a more thorough debunking of Freely's video, please see the previously mentioned video by Cheap Lazy Vegan. Now that I've hopefully established that racism is real and it's a big problem, let's talk about why we as vegans ought to talk about it. I've included Unnatural Vegan because she's a large vegan YouTuber who has collectively released 50 minutes of content explaining why vegans don't need to talk about Black Lives Matter, but I'm not going to be addressing her specific points. Not just because I don't consider myself educated enough to really speak on this issue with great detail, but because a couple of smaller POC YouTubers already put some videos out there that go through Unnatural Vegan's videos point by point. The first video I want to highlight is by Jean Mattei, so sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly. It's called Unnatural Vegan Thinks We Shouldn't Have to Support Black Lives Matter, and I'll include a clip of it here.
All that it matters is that she is being serious and she's not being sarcastic. So this is around 4 minutes in, she says this.
How do you pick and choose? Why do vegans have to talk about Black Lives Matter right now, but we don't have to talk about Muslims in China? We don't have to talk about Syria. We don't have to talk about Venezuela. We don't have to talk about Bolsonaro. Holy crap. I mean, I don't understand. Again, I mean, why Black lives? Why not Syrian lives? Why not, Chinese lives? Why not Russian lives? Why not Peruvian lives? And also, like, where does it end? Like, why do we have to talk about this issue but not that issue?
Yikes. Like, I don't know what else to say, my dude. Like, it sounds like something that a racist would say to divert attention away from Black Lives Matter. It has the same tone as people saying, well, what about white lives? White lives matter too. Do you think white lives don't matter? Well, what about all lives? Don't all lives matter? And what they're trying to do is they're trying to take attention away from police brutality and Black Lives Matter. And this, Unnatural Vegan saying this, like unironically, comes across yikesy.
Here's a video clip from another creator called Niles Gilmore from his video An Angry Vegan's Rant about do vegans need to talk about Black Lives Matter.
I see white vegans trying to market to black vegans and they're like, oh, veganism, market veganism to black vegans, and they're like, oh, just have a green juice. Ooh, just have my raw vegan apple pie. Nobody wants that shit. Next. Oh my gosh. Then she goes on another, red herring. Well, why are we talking about Black Lives Matter? Why not Syrian lives? Why not Russian lives? That's not the point. You're in fucking America. If you're in fucking America, right now the point is Black Lives Matter. When the whole entire fucking world erupts talking about why Black lives should matter, maybe right now is not the time for you to put out your red herring talking about, oh, well, what about Russian lives? What about Syrian lives? Shut up and listen to the fact that the whole world is rioting right now for fucking Black lives in America. So right now, use your platform to care about Black lives in America. Make a fucking video about Black lives in fucking America. Girl, shut up. Ugh. Then she goes on to say, if we care about so many movements, our activism will get watered down. And my question has to be, if we're fighting oppression, how would your movement get watered down? If the goal is to fight oppression at every turn, how would that's the goal of Black Lives Matter. Right now, we're focusing on Black Lives Matter, but if you, like I said, opened up your Twitter for 5 seconds, most people who are Black Lives Matter are usually intersectional, at least the ones online. And because of that, they're usually talking about abolishing ICE, they're usually talking about animal rights, they're usually talking about all these other things. So how would this be watering down your movement? If anything, it gives you more people with your movement. Anyways. Then she goes, police and Black Lives Matter issues aren't related. And first of all, yes, they are. Policing keeps Black people and keeps, in positions of poverty. And when you're impoverished, you often get sent to do work that nobody wants to do. Nobody wants to be in a factory farm. Even conservatives who kill deer and like to sit there and take trophy hunts and all that shit can sit there and objectively say factory farming is fucking cruel as fuck. I've seen it so many times. So no, because people are getting mass incarcerated, because people are getting forced into positions where they have to be impoverished, then they're forced to take up positions that, again, are awful and exploitative to not only the people who are doing it, but to the animals and other sentient beings that you're seemingly so concerned about. Yes, police have a direct impact on Black lives. And those Black lives and those minority lives are getting funneled into the very oppressive system that you're trying to get rid of.
Now, I say this at risk of sounding like a liberal snowflake, but I don't care because what I'm going to say is true. Making these types of videos that I just showed now is extremely emotionally draining. And I know this because I've made videos on sexual assault that took a lot out of me emotionally. So I'd just like to say thank you to these creators who took the time and energy to make these response videos. I know that it's never fun. So why should we talk about Black Lives Matter? Well, I would just say on a human-to-human level, you probably should. If you disagree with that, then I can't make you care about Black people. I don't know how to make you care about Black people, so I'll just leave it there, I guess. But even if you don't care about Black people and you only care for animals, it's still important to address racism. I know in some circles, intersectionality means something inflammatory, but this is a term used to describe how different types of discrimination and oppression don't exist in their own bubbles, but interact. They intersect. For instance, there's the intersection of animal rights and racism. Riddle me this. Who is more likely to go vegan? A white middle-class white person or a Black person who lives in fear, getting killed by the police, has to work 3 jobs and support their children because their partner was thrown in jail for drug possession, and they also live in a neighborhood rife with criminal activity, so they have to deal with that. Oh, and they also live in a food desert. We as vegans need to care about these issues, racism, poverty, food deserts, etc. if we want people to go vegan. Of course, I think everyone has a moral obligation to go vegan, that's like my raison d'etre, but rather than shame people, I'm more interested in creating conditions that are conducive to people going vegan. And we as vegans need to be concerned with racism within our own movement. Yes, literal white vegan nationalists exist, and I would never work with someone like that, regardless of how passionate they were about animal rights. Direct Action Everywhere has, and maybe still has, I don't know, a problem with racism and sexism within their organization, so much so that Carol Adams, the author of The Sexual Politics of Meat, won't attend events if Direct Action Everywhere is there. So I do think that we as vegans shouldn't be racist, but we should also be anti-racist to make clear that this is not something that we tolerate. Another reason to talk about Black Lives Matter is that this movement is finally gaining a lot of traction. Or in other words, white people are finally starting to realize how bad the problem is. Black people have been fighting that since, well, always. So I think it's important to give this movement some support to keep it alive. It doesn't really take anything away from your activism to spend 10 seconds at the beginning of your video to say, I support Black Lives Matter. Veganism also has a bit of a reputation of being a white thing, and let's be real, all the major figureheads in this movement are white men, so I'm not surprised that people are getting that idea. And before anyone attacks me, I'm not saying that our white vegan leaders need to quit what they're doing, but maybe they ought to examine why we ought to examine why the people in this movement are predominantly white and male. I do agree that it's not a productive thing to shame people on social media for not posting about Black Lives Matter. But I also don't want to discuss this issue because, so what? Black people are literally being murdered in the streets and being enslaved by the prison system. If you get a rude message, just ignore it. I haven't posted anything on my social media until this video, and while I didn't receive any messages asking me why I haven't posted anything, I wouldn't complain if someone had. Even if they called me every horrible name under the sun, because it doesn't actually matter. I'm not interested in hijacking a movement about Black people fighting for equality to talk about the mean messages that I got on the internet. It's all about perspective, people. Now, I don't think Freely or Unnatural Vegan are maliciously racist or anything, just ignorant. When Freely says she doesn't care what someone's skin color is, I believe her. I just found it particularly disheartening when Unnatural Vegan made a second video defending everything she said in her first video rather than listen to the feedback that she got from her audience, especially because her audience is so much better than average. Just compare her comment section to Vegan Gains and you'll immediately know what I mean. Why spend a total of 50 minutes defending vegans who don't want to talk about Black Lives Matter when you could have just said nothing? That would have been infinitely better. So that's all I really have to say. Thank you for watching this far. It means a lot to me. Make sure you go follow those YouTubers I mentioned that made response videos. I also highly recommend watching the documentary 13th on Netflix. I also want to ask you guys for a favor. If you know of any Black vegan content creators, let me know because I'm going to make a video promoting them. Preferably people who are good representations of veganism, no kooky ideas about nutrition or anti-vax BS or anything like that. Instagrammers and YouTubers are both good. Like, subscribe, and please leave your comments down below. I always appreciate that, and I'll see you in the next one. And remember, Black Lives Matter.